Hello, friends, and welcome to the 112th episode of Snap Judgments. As almost always, I'm Roy Rogers, and joining me today is my friend and yours, the one, the only, the CEO of the Snap Judgments podcasting network, podcasting universe, your favorite Twitch streamer, your favorite content creator, the one, the only, once again, Aaron Pulse Glazer. Glazer, my friend, how are you on this wonderful cold week here in the Northeast?
I'm doing great. It's very, very cold. I love that Roy's like, we're gonna go through this fast, but then he's like, but I have a 10-minute intro for you to get through because that brings me joy, and that's happening no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very tired. This is a very long and busy season in my day job, so we are going to move at a steady pace, and that includes introducing our very special guest, Glazer, who is going to be chatting with us today.
We have the great Den, the head writer of Marvel Snap Zone, the most important voice in Marvel Snap print, outside of, I guess, Glenn Jones, probably, right? Because Glenn replies to everything everyone writes. But the most important voice in Marvel Snap print is Den. How you doing, Den?
I'm doing great. I'm like still amazed you're still calling me special because I don't know how many episodes I've done, but I feel like I'm kind of a furniture at this point.
Yeah. But
not a main one, but like one at the back of the room or something like that.
So here, it's not that you're a special guest. It's that you're special and you're a guest.
Oh yeah, my mom used to tell me that when I was a kid.
I think Dan may have done the most episodes of any. I'm
pretty sure Glazer beats me.
Of any guest. So
fair. Yeah, it seems likely at this point.
We're very happy to have Den back once again for our sort of monthly tradition here. Before we really jump into it, I just need to remind you all real quick how to engage with the social media. We are on the Hellscape app known as X, formerly Twitter, at SnapJudgeCast. We're also at the other place where the skies are bluer. Under what, Glazer?
Snapjudge Glazer. I forgot
Glazer.
That existed, and then someone found me on it and then made fun of me for not using it.
There we go. Well, if you're that person, thumbs up to you, my friend, for making fun of Glazer for not using that. We are incredibly grateful to be the official podcasting partner of a Marvel Snap Zone. You should definitely go check them out, and we're not just saying that because we have Den on this week. We say that each and every week because we are so incredibly grateful that they are the best place to go for your Marvel Snap news and Marvel Snap commentary. You get Den's content, you get Lauren's content, you get a whole variety of other friends of the show and guests.
Right. You know who's writing an article there every day again?
Is it you?
Yeah. I started seeing those and watching them.
Okay. Nice, well, and you get Glazer's content. So yet another place to engage with Glazer. You can also engage with him by emailing him the snail mail of the internet, which is snapjudgmentspodcast@gmail.com. And last but not least, the place that you are probably watching and listening to this right now, if you're not watching it on Twitch at Pulse Glazer, is our YouTube at Snap Judgments Pod, where 6 of the 7 days in a week, Glazer produces Snap Takes, the best Marvel Snap content on YouTube. If you want to stay on top of the meta, you want to stay on top of the news, you want to find out whether or not Snap has been banned in your country, our content at Snap Judgments Pod is the place to be. Aaron, if our loyal listeners would have become our loyal viewers of the YouTube, what would they find on the YouTube now?
A lot of recent videos of me urging Americans to calm down about the ban, because, oh my God, it was like, the sky is falling. They robbed us. They did this on purpose. They were trying to steal our money. Somehow they're going to make more money with the game offline than on. This is horrible. Can you believe me urging people to freaking relax is mostly what you'll find. And then, a bunch of really great text.
Yeah. If you want to support Glazer and what he gives to the community, you can also engage and his bail fund for encouraging a federal crime of using a VPN to play Marvel Snap when it is banned in the United States.
Just a big fine.
And
it'll hit the LLC, not me. It's all LLC, not me.
support this at our Patreon, which is Snap Judgments on Patreon. Besides protecting Aaron's future legal problems, was responsible for the leagues that he and Getting T and other folks run. There's a Snap Judgments league running soon, or is it running
Monday,
now?
I think.
Monday, yep. So very soon. So sign up, $2 tier or more. Happy for your support. It's what keeps everything going. All right. Let's talk about the new card this week. His name is Bullseye, the same thing that the U.S. government has on NetEase and ByteDance is a bullseye right there. All right, what does this guy get you for your 6K tokens? 3 strength, 3 cost, and an activate ability. Missed you activate. Discard all cards that cost 1 or less from your hand. Afflict that many different enemy cards with -2 power. Den, this card, so dangerous that the U.S. government banned the app that produced it.
I think it's a great breath of fresh air because not only you pushed something different than just, hey, this is a great card that you can play in 12 decks at the same time, it also pushed a different way of playing a unique synergy in this card. So far, although there have been a lot of noise around these decks and they're not that great, like they're solid enough to climb, but they're not that great. I just like the fact that it pushed something different because I definitely think that's one of the most needed things in the game at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's very good. Very good card. I think he's the worst card of the season, but that doesn't mean like he's a bad card. It just means that the cards this season have been completely and utterly absurdly powerful.
It is exactly what I wrote in an article today.
Did you? Nice. Yeah, it's Victoria Hand is one of the best cards in the game, basically immediately, right? Moonstone is phenomenal in multiple shells, and then the best generic 2-drop is Iron Patriot. So Bullseye's not on the same tier as any of those cards. But it's still a very good card. It gives us new decks and it's fun. So I think this is basically a home run. Is it my favorite card? No, I don't actually think I enjoy playing it all that much, but it is different and I'm all for it. It works best, by the way. People that are running with Dakin, I'm convinced this card works best with Victoria Hand.
Well, the best deck has both, I think.
Yeah, but I think the Dakin is like I don't think it's supposed to be trying to do anything with Dakin outside of get like an extra discard and 8 power. Like it'll take more if it gets it, right? Like I think it runs Grandmaster maybe. But like I don't think it's really, or Frega occasionally, but I don't think it's trying to like really do anything extra with Dakin. Dakin's just there. I think the key card is Victoria Hand.
Well, actually, I just checked for curiosity, and apparently the best deck with Bullseye currently doesn't have Victoria Hand. But yeah. I agree with you. Like, probably down the line, the refined deck probably plays it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Right? Any Bullseye thoughts?
I guess it's the same sort of thoughts that I had when we reviewed the cards for this season. I find it kind of funny that he's like a fixed Gambit in some ways, and like we're talking about like NPE experience, right? Like some people don't love Gambit because his ability to blow up your board, and I love cards that make Swarm more playable. So, which you'll see when you see what our variant of the week is. Swarm,
spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. I really just sort of like love cards that make Swarm more powerful. I like that the discard, unlike Gambit, is a bit more controlled. And there's like lots of different avenues that you could, if you really want to, like you can go into a traditional discard shell. You could also play it in some kind of zoo deck that wants an additional thing at the end of the game to clear out ones that you weren't able to play and get some additional value, right? Like there's different angles, whether they are all as glorious as the sort of Swarm synergy or the discard synergy. They're not, but I like these discard cards that have an additional out to sort of ask you to build around them as much as you are just including them in a traditional Morbius style style discard deck. So I'm a fan of this Bullseye card, and I do agree as well that it is not as powerful as some of his friends that we're getting from the Dark Avengers / Thunderbolts this month.
I mean, if everything was as good as Moonstone and Victoria Hand, people would complain that they can't get all the cards. So
It's true. You just can't get Victoria Hand and Moonstone if you don't have the resources, or if the app is banned. So let's talk about the top 10 decks in Marvel Snap. Glazer.
All right, so we're not doing anything different than we usually do. I know who's seen us do this before. We literally just go deck by deck and rank them. If something falls beyond 10, it gets kicked off the list. I have an extra tab right here that viewers will see, although it pushed me back to slide one of that tab, which is obnoxious, where I just write them as we go. So that's all we do. And then when we post the slideshow with the actual podcast, you can check to see what that top 10 is, or you can, listen and have a memory. Any questions?
can we just reiterate with who is the audience for the type of players we consider?
I think where we end up settling is we're trying to say around top 50% infinite. We're not talking about the very top of the infinite leaderboard usually, right? Although the top of the infinite leaderboard does matter here. But like we're not looking at decks that you can use to hit infinite because and Den, correct me if I'm wrong, it is our belief that if you are good at Marvel Snap, you could hit infinite with almost anything.
Yeah.
So top 50% infinite if you want to win and climb a bit. Seems reasonable?
Reasonable it is.
All right. Den's enjoying some biscuits. I'm very jealous. All right. We're going to kick it off with Arishem. Arishem is our first list. We don't have to read the list, but it is the standard Arishem list. The standard Arishem list and the key cards right now, I think most
There's Vision
of the
in there now.
There's I don't care. We're talking not specifically about this list, but the Arishem archetype. The Arishem archetype right now runs Iron Patriot, Valentina, Doom, Galacta, Mockingbird, Goliath, and then other stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you pick a few fives. You probably run Doom. You pick an extra 6. Maybe it's Magneto. Maybe it's Red Hulk. Maybe it's whatever. Right. And then you just go from there. Sometimes it's Vision. Sometimes you run Deathstrike. Who cares? These are all fine. These are all different changes. So Arishem is deck one. Before we get to comparing Arishem to something, how good do you think Arishem is right now?
I think it got better with the OTA because there's less of US Agent, which was bullying Doctor Doom up until this point. But the thing is, I don't think Arishem is inherently better. It's just benefiting from another card being less popular. The thing is, if Arishem was worth countering, US Agent at -3 still probably dunks on Doctor Doom 2099. So I think Arishem got better, but not to the point where people should play it a ton, or to the point where it can become a safe pick if it would be the top of the meta. So I think it's if you like Arishem, you have a better reason to play it now, but don't expect it to be completely crazy and just be totally different from the past.
So it's the best place to play Doom 2099, I think, because you don't need to do any silly bullshit in order to get that Doom out.
You don't consider Lockdown to be a better Doom?
I don't think the Lockdown's good. I think the Lockdown's good in Conquest.
Okay.
I think it's the best place to play Lady Deathstrike because Lady Deathstrike really wants to be played on 4, not on 5.
Yes, definitely would.
And Lady Deathstrike will hit Bullseye. It will hit your Victoria hands. So it's a very, very powerful card right now.
There's a ton of great targets, yes.
It's the last good place to play Valentina because you can play Valentina and then you can play that card next turn. It's the best place to play Goliath right now. Right? Because almost every other deck got Goliath. And it's the best place to play Mockingbird because obviously you generate 1 million cards. So it's the best place to play a lot of powerful Marvel Snap cards. And so I think it's better than people give it credit for.
I think this deck is morally reprehensible. It just has so many just hashtag good cards in it.
Yeah, if you're a good pilot, if you're able to just be flexible and just find plays every turn, Arishem is good. You 100% get infinite with Arishem and you 100% can climb with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to make top 10, but it's good. Let's get to comparing it with something though. We are comparing it with this deck that I shared in today's video / article. It's we're going to call this Iron Man Gore. It's basically the shell that's trying to go Moonstone plus Ravonna and then go crazy using either Frigga, Anti-Venom, or other nonsense. It is extremely strong. I found so a bunch of people are playing this in top 20 infinite, at least 3 different people are playing this in top 20 infinite. Then I crushed with it. I'm sitting around rank 100 right now. I think I'm rank 130 or something. So I don't know why you laughed at me, Ryan. That was mean.
I laughed at, like you said that very understatedly. You were like, I'm just sitting around rank 100, just like as you do.
Okay, well, okay, whatever. And then I went and checked, and I've got like a 80% win rate with this. Like, it's completely stupid. And then I checked the stats on this, the top 50% infinite, and it's very cube positive, but it's like a 40% win rate. People suck with this list. Why?
Because I don't think people understand you're not supposed to put all your points, and you're supposed to play it more like combo oriented, so you don't get punished by counter card.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah.
Also, one thing is, top infinite doesn't really hate on ongoing decks, but if you go like a little lower, or people climbing to infinite, you see a lot more of rogues and enchantress in that kind of card.
So part of what Enchantress blows this out, right? Like, if you see Enchantress, you get blown out. That's fair. And we are seeing more Enchantress everywhere. But Rogue doesn't really stop this, just because you have so much shit.
I mean, it does stop it if you slam Iron Man without priority and expect to copy it next turn.
I mean, sometimes you get what you deserve.
People will do it. You know it.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you did that, like, you've got Luke in the deck, that should be in the Luke lane, or you don't want to put that in the Ravonna lane, but like, people
agree.
rogue Ravonna all the time. Like, all right, cool, thanks. I mean, I guess I like Ravonna, but like, I don't need it.
I'm on your side, but
yeah. No, I'm not saying you're not. It's just when I saw the win rate being 40%, like 48%, 49%, fine, I get it, right? Like, I get like that it was 40 and like a reasonable sample. I was like, it was like a day before. It was like stupid stats. It was just crazy to me. All right. I think this has to go below arishem because it's so much harder to play.
I mean, if we're speaking about the average player, I would put it below. If we're speaking about put in the work and just play what's good, it's ahead.
I would like to put it ahead. This deck is insane. This does lose to arishem, but we're not worried about the head to head, right? I just think that this is really, really hard to beat. Like, if you don't pack Enchantress or Mobius just straight up farms this list, right?
I mean, we got to talk about Mobius eventually, because with Bullseye relying on Swarm, with Mr. Negative still being pretty good, there's starting to be enough for Mobius comeback, I think.
I think people should be playing Mobius. I've seen exactly one person play Mobius of any like major prominence right now. Ika's playing Mobius in a Sarah deck, and outside of that, I'm not seeing any of it.
Well, I'm trying to put it back in my like flexible decks, but I need to figure out what do I cut, because there's so many 3 costs.
Yeah, I get you. Like 3 is officially just like the hardest thing to fit. Excuse me. All right, let's put this ahead. Like, let's assume our viewers are good, right? Like, you're in the engaged Marvel Snap community if you're listening to this podcast, and that means we believe you can put in time. So I'm going to call this Iron Gore, and I'm going to go above arishem. Sounds fair?
I have one piece of advice for people playing this deck. Do not play as ugly a Moonstone variant as Glazer has here.
I love this Moonstone variant.
Okay, move on to the next deck. That's an offensive statement, Glazer. That is
I really like it. I like it better than the
ugliest variants you put in the.
So next up, we have the number one deck in the game, which is going to be I would bet the number one deck on our list. It's the Move Bounce list that they really need to nerf already. You've seen this list. US Agent is currently cut for Nico in it, but sometimes that's Cosmo. Sometimes that's all sorts of cards. It is the deck that runs the bounce cards and then the move cards together. Den, any argument to this ending up number one, at least right now?
I mean, if we're in the universe where people play their deck as they're supposed to, yeah, this deck slaps. One thing is probably US Agent doesn't need to be the flexible card anymore, but that's just detail. I mean, the move synergy, the rest of the deck is just bonkers.
So for ages, I was just like, people just need to practice with this deck. They'll be good. People just need to practice with this deck. They'll be good.
Yep.
I
feel like saying it. If you have time, invest time in this deck.
I think we've hit critical mass. I feel like about 30% of my games at High Infinite are against this deck now. Like, so many people are playing it, and like, you just lose, right? Like, unless you get lucky or you're running the counters, which don't. And the part of the real problem is the counters to this deck don't counter anything else currently in the deck.
I mean, there's only one counter that works against the rest, is Red Guardian, the Venom Web. That's the only real
Rogue. I can rogue the Venom Web too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That doesn't like you. That's a good start. You need a second counter. You need to either hit on a Shadow King or a Shang or like a Cosmo. If you
Yeah,
get the Madam Web off and one of the others, but I don't think Shang is good right now. I don't think Shadow King is good right now, and I don't think Cosmo is good right now. So that's kind of a problem.
I agree. Like, no argument, Your Honor.
Yeah, this it will be very, very unsurprising when this ends up number one. I think it's time for them to end up reverting Dagger to her +2 and Vulture to +5. I think that's what I would do. I would just say, okay, we pumped these when we didn't have as like a powerful move deck, and now move is too strong. Let's weaken these two cards and see where we are.
Probably.
Roy,
I'm
any
trying
thoughts
to
on
find
move
like
comp?
smart ways to nerf it, but there's not a smart way to nerf it.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to sort of burn it to the ground, right? So start by weakening Dagger and Vulture and see if people go off it enough, and then let's go from there.
Yeah.
I'm too flat-brained to play this deck correctly.
It's so hard.
Everyone is. Like, the first 20 games with this deck, you feel stupid. Even the great players, even the ones that, like, you would think they need, like, all the people that we keep saying, oh, they just take any deck and they're good at it. Well, move and bounce and these types of decks, even if you're really good, the first games, at the end of the games, you're like, oh my god, there's at least 3 turns I should have done differently here.
I don't disagree. But eventually you learn it, right?
But
like,
the secret is
I just
played
this a ton. And eventually I was like, oh, I'm winning.
Sweet, by the way.
Yeah. It's time to nerf at this point. Next up, we have the Bullseye list. I use the Kochia list as our like one to talk about because it seems like the average player is best with this. This isn't the one I'm best with, but it seems like this is the one the average player is best with by like a fair large margin. So it doesn't have to be this version, but it's the Bullseye Dokken list that runs a Morbius Collector, MODOK, and no other top end besides MODOK. Better than arishem, but not anything else.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing with this deck is it has weaknesses. The question is, people aren't really like trying to counter it. So if this, like the current state, is the deck being at its best, it's unfortunate, but it probably won't end up being like a great deck. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely like good enough to be talked about, at least at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make the top 10 eventually. I don't think Arishem's going to make the top 10. That's why it's around there. I found
it's new. It beats Arishem on the fun factor.
Yeah, by a lot. But like I found that like cards like Juggernaut and Rogue just completely destroy this list.
Juggernaut, Rogue. Well, there's a lot. Like you mentioned Lady Deathstrike before. Mm-hmm. Mobius makes it that you can't discard Swarm anymore. Like there's a lot of problem. Is that the deck works because it's new. People haven't adapted to it yet. So it's like the situation is right for it.
Mm-hmm. Roy, would you like to talk crap about my variants here?
No, I think this is as far as it goes. It's not the best Swarm variant, but we'll get to it. I think it's good. And I actually do agree that I think that this deck is fun, but doesn't really beat anything besides Arishem.
Yeah, I really, really, really do like it.
On the top end.
Like I'm also really happy that Alex made a meta deck because Alex is the nicest guy.
He is very nice.
This is just another version, the Victoria Hand version. That runs Moonstone just for us to look at as like an alternate version. This is the version I've had more success with by like a lot. Just showing that there are multiple ways to play it. This one runs Victoria Hand instead of Dokken and Shenanigans. Perhaps Moon Knight should be Dokken and you should just run both, but I don't really care. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
There. Next. Clog. Straight up Clog. Clog's really good right now and really, really frustrating.
Quake is such a good addition in this Iron Patriot meta.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is just like Clog has nothing new about it. It's the exact same strategy as it's always been, but it's so satisfying to Quaker Iron Patriot. It's like it's stupid because you haven't won the game. They still have their card. You haven't effectively done anything, but you're so happy about it. At least I am. Maybe that's just me.
No, I don't like Clog. I think Clog is boring. I think Clog is unfun.
It is.
I'm happy that Clog is on the fringes of the meta, but it's still like super strong. I think we've got a better Clog later, but I do think Clog is super duper strong.
Yep. Especially in this metagame with a ton of like cheap, flexible cards. You can very, very quickly end up with a lane filled, and suddenly you're like, oh shit, I just have to pray they don't have cannonball.
Yep.
They have it. Spoiler alert, they have it always.
This is probably number 2 right now, right? This is better than the Iron Gore.
So right now we have what? Move?
Move, bounce, Iron Gore, Bullseye. It's not better than move, bounce.
Yeah, 2 is fair. 2 is fair.
So I could beat this with the Iron Gore, but it's not an easy match, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the lower you go in the rankings, and the better Clog is going to be compared to the 2 others. But at like top 50% infinite, we can assume people are good enough on move and the other one to win. But I mean, like if we're talking like a conquest match or something, like I would assume like it's going to be a lot about like quality of snaps and early hands.
I mean, so it's worth noting, really good players almost never miss with this list, but I can tell if I'm playing a player who's not great because they make plays where I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Fairly often.
Yeah.
Like there's another list here that's going to do things like that, where like I can tell if I'm playing against a good player or not relatively quickly, and it informs how I play the game very importantly.
Yeah, I agree. Like Clog, like you need to be like sneaky and very, very careful about like your opponent habits.
Yeah.
But once you pick up the way your opponent plays, Clog is incredible.
Right. Muted.
Is this the first deck that we found that has just one Series 5 card that you couldn't acquire from a season pass? No, it's got 2. It's got Cannonball.
If you really want to play Iron Patriot, you can. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And like Magic is in versions, but like, no, it's a really, really cheap deck. There's a few. Like Scream, I think I actually have Scream on this. I don't remember for sure. But Scream's going to be here. Scream is super cheap. There's a few. Oh, Gore is in this version too. So 3.
Yeah, Gore, Cannonball, and Hawkeye. But you could get through season pass.
Could have, yeah.
Yeah. But let's see. Yeah. Interesting.
So, no, this is relatively cheap. Chunk is hard to get into. And it's good. All right. Let us continue on to discard Dracula. I think the classic discard Dracula does not want Bullseye. Bullseye wants his own version of discard.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly not. It's built. It doesn't have enough 1-drops here to.
Yeah.
It's mostly that Dracula doesn't really like having a ton of swarms in hand, because if you can't play them, then your Dracula is just a gamble. So Bullseye and Dracula aren't really friends at the moment.
I could see that. I could like definitely see how that would work, and why that would be a problem right now. Okay. My hot take is this is probably number 2 right now.
Ooh, number 2.
The only thing that really beats this, outside of move bounce, just being so stupidly tall, is Red Guard. Actually, that's not fair. The Iron Gore deck goes taller. But like outside of that, it's just move bounce. And Red Guardian. Red Guardian can beat this list. Dan, could you move a touch closer to your mic, please?
Yes, I am moving a touch closer to my mic.
Okay. So, what do we think? Do we think this is number 2? Because I could see it being anywhere. Okay.
I mean,
so
I agree it's in the group of
Iron Gore and Clog, right?
Good decks.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm ready to put it at number 3 or at number 2. Like,
you think it's worse than Iron Gore?
I don't know, but I think it's worse than Clog at the moment.
Okay, I can put it between those 2. So I think a reasonable reason for it to go above Iron Gore is it's significantly easier to play.
Yeah, that definitely.
Although people that think it's easy to play are incorrect. It is not an easy deck to play. There is a lot of positioning things to consider.
I mean, you won't. The difference between the 2 decks is the the gore, the Iron Gore deck tells you when you messed up because it's gonna cost you the game. Well, this card you can play it like average and win games and think you're doing it right until you face people that are really gonna punish you for playing average.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
you can definitely get to infinite without ever noticing you made mistakes with the deck. Well, Iron Gore, you're never gonna get infinite if you make mistakes, or like
That's
the same
very
level
fair.
of mistakes.
Yeah, very fair. Any classic discard thoughts? This is one of your favorites, right, bro?
No, I mean, I haven't been keeping up with it because it used to be, but I don't have Malekith. So
you don't need Malekith.
you have?
Did you get Fenris?
Nope.
Oh well, poo. Fenris is in the other really good version of it.
Yeah, I know. So I don't really have any of the newer cards for this deck. So when I do play it, I'm stuck with the older, less efficient version. So, by the way, no variants on this one. This is a variant free.
Well, this because you'll be able to tell by this is by Den. I just grabbed it from Den, so Den has the version.
For tier list, I never use variants because it doesn't help people.
Yeah. You want people to be able to see what the cards are quickly. I'm trying to do visual flair because my stuff is usually for YouTube first.
We're not here to flex.
This is meant to be overall Hela. I think this is probably the bottom deck. I think Hela's probably the worst thing we've talked about so far. But I just wanted to include that I think Hela's really cool right now and super fun. This is the most fun Hela's ever been by a lot.
Yes. Like, not talking about competitiveness, I have never wanted to play Hela this much.
I play it all the time now. I have like 3 Hela decks built.
Yeah, because like when I saw the rework and I saw most lists were still like quite traditional compared to the old ones, it was like, eh. And then I saw what looks like this one. It was really close, or maybe it was this one. And it was like, what the hell is this? Tested it, actually did pretty well with it, and now it's in my collection. And sometimes like, I don't know what to play. Oh wait, I have like Alien's Quest for this, and I just slam a couple of games and have fun with this thing.
Yeah, I was on the phone earlier and I was like, oh no, I didn't do my dailies, and like we're gonna be podcasting past the next reset, right? So my stuff was full, and I was like, what can I play without like thinking and have a really good time while I'm doing other things? And so I threw this list together, and it worked perfectly. So this is the bottom list, right? It's worse than arishem.
Yeah, it is.
But so fun. Like if you want to have a good time playing Marvel's, you get an infinite with it just fine.
Of course. I mean, we're not discussing decks that you can get infinite with. You can get infinite with a lot of things. So,
All right. Next up, we have Mill. This is the best Mill has ever been in Marvel's Snap. There's like 3 versions of this that all kick ass.
Mill is a really, really strong deck at the moment.
So what makes it so strong?
How do you explain it? First, the fact that most decks are playing very strong standalone, so whatever card you steal is typically playable. The second thing is you're really, really strong against Iron Patriot because Baron Zemo and Gladiator are about the 2 best 3 costs to play behind it, while you also have the Demon from the hood. A lot of flexible decks are playing 1 cost, so Killmonger is actually really good. We discussed Lady Deathstrike in the past. Like, it's just, when you look at all the cards individually, you're just like, oh, you're a good card. You're a good card. And typically, like, Mill is kind of like Clog. The synergy is good, or the deck isn't that good. Right now, even when you don't mill people, you're still like, oh, wait, I actually, like, played a pretty good game, and I just slam cards. So when like a disruptive synergy is good enough to just play like a strong standalone kind of deck, it's really, really strong.
It's also, I think, right now the best home for Killmonger. You might have noticed Destroy is not on this list. Destroy is kind of crappy right now. But I think this is the best home for Killmonger, period. This is the best home for Fenris Wolf. This is the second best home for Misery. It's just a lot of powerful... this is the second best home for Lady Deathstrike. And all those are... And Shadow King is nowhere in the meta, so people aren't playing around it. There's a lot of things that this deck likes to do that make it extra strong right now. Oh, plus Victoria Hand is a 2. Right? And like sometimes you just Yondu that and you're like, oh shit, snap.
Yeah, sometimes you also like steal it. One thing I don't understand, but I get it, but I'm annoyed by it, is the fact that they cut Cable from it. So I typically try to get it back into it, but I get why it was cut.
Yeah, there's powerful versions that run cable and powerful versions that don't. It doesn't super matter. I think this is number 2 right now. I think this is better than Clog.
Yeah.
It's not better than Move Bounce, but that's not fair.
It depends. Like, when we're always gonna have the debate of which hands are we talking about, but yeah.
Look, it's got a decent chance against Move Bounce between Shadow King, Shang-Chi, Death Strike, getting the good Fenris Wolf, Killmonger, etc. It's just got a decent matchup.
Yep.
Hi, bud. Guys. Sorry, my family.
No worries.
Noah. It's 9:00. Please go to bed. Come on, let's go. That's the only thing that came, bud. I thought that was your thing. Sorry about that. Child came home very late at night. All right. Next deck. Negative. Negative has a stupidly high win rate right now. I don't know what else to say.
I mean,
It's doing really well.
No one's playing Mobius, so Negative is just like, oh, guess I'll win.
I guess so. No one's playing Mobius, no one's playing Shang, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Negative is as good as it's always been, and there's barely any disruption for it. So yeah, Negative is in a great place. But if you start seeing Mobius at some point, just play something else.
I feel like Negative is a worse version of Iron Gore.
It's a simpler version for sure.
I mean, it's just, yes, it is much easier to play. But there's games like the Iron Gore deck, you don't lose on draw often, right? And Negative, you lose on draw a lot.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Right? Like sometimes you play Negative and you're just like, oh, I lost immediately, right? And or I won immediately with Negative. Whereas the Iron Gore deck, you actually have to play.
Yeah.
So, I guess it depends what you're looking for. Some people who think that it's a plus that Negative does that. I don't know. Where do you think Negative ranks? Right now, we are at, it's somewhere in the discard Iron Gore level, right? It's better than Bullseye.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely better than Bullseye. I mean, it's above Iron Gore for most people, and it's a little behind amongst experienced players, I would say.
Yeah, I get you.
Something like that.
A little behind Iron Gore. Let's go with Roy. Any arguments for or against?
I think you guys placed it pretty well.
Okay. Look, I don't think that Negative or necessarily Iron Gore are going to end up on the list. But I do want this on the list. This is Cougar's list. He's rank 5 right now. This is my favorite junk list right now. It is a junk list that also just says, sometimes I end up with 230 power lanes. It's just, I'm going to read this one for our audio listeners because this isn't a known archetype. This is the first thing we're talking about that's not really a known archetype, I think, outside of the anti-venom thing. Titania, Ravonna, Daredevil, Kate, Green Goblin, Mystique, Sage, Magic, Debris, Moonstone, Iron Man, Gore. And basically either seeing Magic without people canceling Magic or Moonstone on Ravonna, and then you just you can win one lane with Clog and then just be like, Gore and Iron Man win another. Or you can just go, oh, look, I've got an Iron Man and Gore in one lane and a Mystique copying either Iron Man or Gore with a Moonstone in another lane.
This is very, very reminiscent of the time where Clog picked up a few move cards to win their second lane, except now they're doing it with ongoing cards. Yeah, I mean, I can see why it's good. I'm not really sure about the Daredevil in there. I guess it's a good Clog card, but there's so many good 2-cost that I was expecting to see something else. So yeah, I can see why the deck would be very annoying to go against, or
yeah,
especially if no one has an idea what they're going up against.
Right. Yeah, this deck's win rate fell basically immediately after I featured it, partially because it's hard to play, right? But partially because once it's known, it's much less effective. But what you're showing early is fairly often just a Clog game plan. And if your opponent is playing against a Clog game plan, and then you start dropping 40 power lanes, which is not rare with this list at all. Because think about it, just how big is a double Gore?
It's pretty big.
Yeah. It's just, you're just going over the top of everything. This and like part of the reason I like this is I'm playing against so much move bounce right now, right? And this list and the Iron Man gore list are two of the best ways to face off against move bounce, because they're the only decks that can even come close to competing with it in size unless it completely goes off.
Yeah.
Where would you have it? Better than Classic Clog?
I like it better than the Iron Gore for sure.
Above
'Cause I
that
feel
is
like-
Discard.
Yeah, it's better than Discard as well.
Is it better than Classic
what
Clog?
we have right now? We have Bounce Move, Clog, Discard?
Mill Clog. Bounce Move, Mill Clog.
Mill Clog. Yeah, I guess in between Mill and Clog is fine.
Okay, yeah, that's probably. I'm going to call this Ongoing Clog.
Ongoing
And that
Clog.
sounds about right to me. Yeah, I think Mill is probably better than this overall. Not for nothing, just because it's significantly easier to play and better into the meta. Whereas this is like trying to feast on particular top things. Roy, any thoughts about this one?
No, particularly no.
Okay. All right. Phoenix Force. This is, I mean, it could be whatever for Phoenix Force. The version I grabbed was the Hanafer version that runs Galacta and Cannonball, just because I think that's a really cool version. I don't think this makes the list, but I think it's cool, and I'm happy Phoenix Force still exists.
I haven't seen Phoenix Force in a very, very long time, to be honest. So I don't really know what to expect, but if I was to guess, I wouldn't expect much.
Fair enough. Yeah,
It seems
I'm
really
not a big-
inconsistent until the new card comes out.
Which new card?
Isn't there going to be a smaller Phoenix Force that's coming
Oh,
out?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's like next month or March.
Yeah, it's March. So, all right. So, there are 10 things on the list. I'm not even going to bother putting this on. We can move on. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to feature it. It's good to give the option, but unfortunately,
Classic
part of
move.
the cool kids.
This is the one that runs Heimdall, Goliath, and Cosmo. And has like no extra space to mess around with outside of that copycat spot. That could be lots of different cards. I don't want it to be, but this is number 2, right?
So we're just saying move is the best thing in the game?
I think so. Do you disagree?
I think this is weaker than bounce move to a lot of the high rank decks. Like, I think this is weaker against Mill and this is weaker against Clog because you don't have the bounce mechanic.
It does have Cosmo, though.
You have Cosmo if you have
And Cloak.
priority, etc.
Like, yeah, Cosmo, Cloak, and Goliath do a lot of the work of what you're looking for here.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I can't say that the deck is bad, but I think I favor the bounce
Mill.
lists a lot.
Oh, yeah, the bounce list is a tier of its own right now, I think.
Yeah, but
So-
I think I would put that below Mill and Clog, but like in the same vein.
Okay, so above discard, though, yes?
Oh yeah, Discard unfortunately is in a group a little behind.
So I'm just going to call move, and then Hela is off the list. Arishem is now number 10. So our top 10 as of right now, since our first thing is gone, is Arishem at 10, Bullseye at 9, Negative at 8, Iron Gore at 7, Discard at 6, Move at 5, Clog at 4, Ongoing Clog at 3, Mill at 2, and Move Bounce at 1. Can you believe how high Mill is? The former Cope deck is singing.
Let's go Mill.
All right, next up we have Ronin. Ronin is in a really good place right now. Care to explain why?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, look at all these good cards.
But it's not just good cards, it's the control deck, right?
Yeah, and it's also the fact that Victoria Hand and these kind of decks are very popular. So Ronin typically is pretty good.
Mhm.
Enchantress is a great card. I don't like Shang-Chi Shadow King too much, but I mean, you play them because you kind of have to. I would love to see Killmonger in this list, to be honest.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, we are seeing, like, if we look at decks that we have on the list, a lot of them are very synergistic, very, like, not gimmicky, but they have a specific game plan. Like, they're here to do something special. And I mean, if you can break it, those decks typically crumble, and this deck is designed to break it.
Yeah, this is the new Sarah, right? Like, I think the anti-venom control lists are basically the new Sarah lists. You-
Kind of, yeah. It doesn't mana cheat as much, but you play like the same way. Like that's
Mhm.
what you try to do.
You just have bigger stuff. It's the same concept with bigger stuff. Because anti-venom's a 4/7, Ronin is huge, Maximus is huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is near the top of the list.
It's in that top group for sure.
Yeah, there's a jumble, right? Like, so it's move bounce, and then mill, ongoing clog, move, and discard are sort of one tier.
I mean, to me, like bounce, move, and mill are kind of like
I
hard
think
to
mill.
touch. I
Okay.
really like mill, but
Fair.
maybe
You know, mill's your like favorite archetype.
yeah, maybe I'm a little biased here, but
I think
I
mill's
don't know.
better than this, though.
I think yeah, I think it's top 5. I don't exactly know where, but I think it's somewhere in the top 5.
I think I'm going to use it to split ongoing clog and clog.
Sure, that works for me.
And goodbye to arishem.
Yep, and also play Killmonger in this, please.
Yeah, run Killmonger, please. Killmonger's insane right now. Killmonger's in such a good spot.
Especially as they're like no one cost, and you also have Invisible Woman. Like, there's everything
they're
you
like,
want.
yeah, I lost to 2 16s and an 8 Human Torch earlier, and I was like, why am I not running Killmonger and things? Just what am I doing with my life that I'm not running Killmonger and decks? So yes, please run Killmonger. Also, great to see Ronin in a top meta deck. Ronin and Mill, like the glow up, right?
Yup.
Scream.
Scream
is so underrated right now. Everyone stopped playing it, and its win rate barely moved.
I don't know. I tested it after the nerf to get a feel for it, and I really didn't like it. But maybe I didn't face enough move.
Play it again now because everyone dropped Luke. There's like no Luke.
Okay.
Like there's just Luke got cut because everyone's screwing around with Bullseye or the whatchamacallit, the Victoria Hand decks or whatever. And like if Bullseye wants a dock in you, you're just like move it twice. Oh, that's a 0 power dock. Would you like to double a 0 docking?
Sure. Please.
Like lots of stuff like that. Red Guardian in it. Just I think it should probably run Enchantress over Hydra Bob now, just as an in case. Also, Enchantress is super strong right now, 6 stats. But outside of that, I really, really like this list. I don't think it's gonna make it because, I mean, like our last list is Bullseye, and I don't think it's. I mean, it's around as good as Bullseye. I think it's the same tier, but I think it's still very good.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I didn't have a great experience with it, so I'll trust your judgment. After all, your snap judgment.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm okay. Like this with Mill. Let's just move on. Like this. Sorry, this with Mill. This with Bullseye is either one is the bottom deck right now, so we can just move on.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Surfer. This list has to be on the top 10.
Yeah,
the
this
win
list
rate
came back in the last tier list, and yeah, it's good. It's really
I mean, people just stopped playing Surfer. Surfer didn't stop being good. It's just there were new cards to play, and Galacta wasn't the new card anymore. Surfer still puts out crazy power.
That's what Surfer does, pretty much for like, I'm not gonna say ever, but that's what Surfer does. It's like people are like, no new cards, I'll play something else, and then eventually you're like, oh, I don't know what to play. Oh, I should try Surfer. Oh my god, it's still good.
Yeah, I always keep a Surfer deck in my game just because I think I like Surfer. But this is somewhere in that top tier.
I would put it above like what's the first deck that's not in that top tier? It's like still discard.
So we have Move Bounce and Mill. It's not better than those. It's not better than Ongoing Clog. It's right around Ronin and Clog for me. Ronin Clog Move. I think it's better than discard.
In that zone. Yeah, in that area.
Ahead of behind Move, right?
Sure. I mean, no, I don't have strong opinions.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tier, right? So like it's somewhere in that tier.
Yeah, exactly.
The small cards list. This is the other list I was talking about earlier. Where within like 3 moves, I can tell if you know what the hell you're doing or not.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? Like this list is incredible, and like so many people play it badly. It's just so good that people win anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, It's especially true in Conquest. It's like when I see this in Conquest, I know it's either going to be an easy game or a super difficult one. There's
Yep.
like no in between.
Yep. This is, by the way, just in case, because I don't believe I was clear for the audio listeners, this is the Havok list that runs Thena and Kitty Pryde and Sage and runs nothing above 3. So my one problem with this list is this is a little bit outclassed by Victoria Handless.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, like Victoria Hand does a very similar thing, just with more points, right? And less tech.
Yeah, and it has that like new flavor of the month, and it's just at the moment it's just a deck where one is more like cool to play and maybe easier as well. So yeah.
Ahead of Iron Gore, ahead of discard or behind discard?
Oh no, it's better than Discord.
Better than Surfer?
It's about like they're
Same tier.
very close. There's like I think if we're talking like top tier players, I'd rather play this than Surfer. But if we're talking Climb to
Yeah, Surfer
Infinite,
does not have skill expression at all.
Yep. So
okay, let's throw it above.
Top 2,000, I would pick this. Other ranks, I would pick Surfer.
That's entirely reasonable. Yeah, there's no skill expression to Surfer. Surfer is just like, I had more stats. Look at all my stats.
Look at my stats.
Yeah.
Look at my stats.
All right. Next up, we've got Iron Patriot, the Ajax list. I don't know what to do with this. Because, like, this is a top list. But it's also a top list that if your opponent has Luke Cage, you just have to run.
I mean, it's good. But yeah, it's volatile.
Yeah. Is it better than Surfer? I don't think so. Like, yes, but again, like, Surfer doesn't just fold, and this just folds. Like, in a really bad way.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably, like, in that... I don't know if it's second or third, but it's in the tier with discard. So the second tier. It's, like, high in the second tier. Around discard.
I think it's about as good as discard. That's a good spot for it. Let's just put it at the bottom with discard. Because that and discard will be 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have the Victoria Hand list, the Moonstone Victoria Hand list with Frigga and such. Wiccan, Moonstone.
Victoria Hand, top tier.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably have this. So it's probably better than Mill to me. I think this is number 2.
I hate that you're right.
Like, it's just Victoria Hand is an S tier card.
Victoria Hand is an S tier card. Moonstone is an S tier card.
Ajax or discard is gone. We'll figure out which one if we don't add any more.
Iron Patriot, when you win the lane and you Frigga it, is like, what? And because it didn't show up yet, but I think it's important to mention it, how the hell Wiccan didn't get nerfed in the last OTA?
I mean, he just loses a power. I don't think you do much else to him.
Yeah, but still, you nerf it so psychologically, people are like, oh, it's a little worse.
Surfer and other on reveals buff Gore. Should that affect their ranks? My opinion is generally no. Do you think so?
Surfer, sorry, can you say that again?
Surfer and other decks that run a lot of on reveals buff Gore decks. Should that affect their relative ranks?
If we're nitpicking, maybe, but otherwise, I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. Gore is fine. Like, it's a big card that wins one lane, right? That's why I like it so much in these Clog lists. If we look at our overall list right now, we've got ongoing Clog and Clog as the top 2 Gore lists, right? And I think there's a reason for that, because I think Gore lists need a really, really strong secondary game plan to win another lane. If you're only going to do one card on turn 6, it can be very hard to win a Marble Snap.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. Wiccan. This is just a Wiccan list. Oh, I don't have another Wiccan list. Does Wiccan make the top 10? Standard Wiccan?
I mean, you can put it with the Sarah control because that's basically like the same cards with a
in the
different
Ronin list, right?
support package. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna write. I'm gonna go over to the Ronin list. I'm gonna write Ronin / Sarah / Wiccan control cards. All right, so
Reasonable.
we have only one decision left to make because we are done. So our list is, and I'm gonna start from the top, which we never do for a very specific reason. Number 1 is Move Bounce. Number 2 is Victoria Hand, usually with Wiccan. Number 3 is Mill, which is, I would assume, the highest Mill will ever be on this. Number 4 is Ongoing Clog. Number 5 is Ronin, Sarah, Wiccan control cards. You basically choose between Anti-Venom, Sarah, or Wiccan as your enabler for your control cards, but you're basically running control shell. Clog is number 6. Move is number 7. This would be the arishem Heimdall list. 8 is small cards, 9 is Surfer, and 10 is either classic discard or Ajax. So we have a decision to make.
Damn, so many good decks.
Mhm.
Typically, like 7 to 10 is like alright decks. This is like
No, yeah, these are all really good.
everything in the top 10 is stellar.
It's a really, really healthy meta.
That's a great meta.
So what are we thinking? Do we go with Victoria Hand? Sorry, discard or Ajax for the last spot?
Ajax is like, yeah, Azmat toxic.
Yeah. Your call.
Let's go discard.
Okay, bye Ajax. Wow, can't believe that's wild. Ajax didn't miss list. So our final list, discard in the number 10 slot. This is classic Dracula discard, which we believe, at least as of this podcast, that it is better than the Bullseye versions. Number 9 is Silver Surfer. Number 8 is Small Cards. Number 7 is Move. Number 6 is Clog. Number 5 is Ronin, Sarah, Wiccan control cards, whatever. You pick whatever shell you want to run all the control cards in. 4 is Ongoing Clog. 3 is Mill. 2 is Victoria Hand, Wiccan. And 1 is Move Bounce. And it is worth knowing that we have 2 versions of Move, 2 versions of Clog, and then we jammed 3 versions of the control shell together. So there's really like 15 decks here.
Yep.
We went so fast for Roy. All right.
I know. It's
Variant of the week, Roy.
So our favorite segment each and every week is Variant of the Week. We've got Swarm here. We have 3 opinions. 1 is correct. Den, which is your favorite Swarm variant?
So I picked the one on the left, saying that if someone else wanted it, I was happy to take the one on the right as well. But my opinion with Swarm is that I like all the variants, but there's not one that is great. Like, it has several good ones, but I'm missing that Swarm variant where I go like, wow.
I absolutely love all 3 of these, so I disagree. I am
mean,
all about all 3 of these.
They're all cool, but they're not like next level.
So the one you picked looks most like he's actually made of bees. It doesn't look like he's one whole thing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's why I picked it.
All right. However, Roy's is a literal dinosaur made of bees.
I know. That is my favorite and objectively the correct choice here. This was the first variant I purchased in Marvel Snap that wasn't part of like a bundle that I bought for currency. And it has never changed since the moment I bought it. It's one of my most upgraded cards. Absolutely adore this Swarm variant.
It's very hard to be mad at a dinosaur that is made of bees.
100%. So you did the hip here, Glazer?
I picked the hip. I could have picked either of these other 2. I really like Swarm variants overall. I think Swarm variants are kind of awesome. But Dan hit. That's my logic here.
Good logic.
It is good logic. I mean, Swarm has great variants for an absolute non-entity of a character.
I have no idea. I've never read a Swarm comic. But he's made of bees.
He's a villain.
Thank you.
From the 90s, man. So
made of bees is a villain. Who'd have thought? Yeah. Could you imagine a hero made of bees?
I could imagine. Bee-Man. There we go.
Bee-Man.
All right. So, Den, as we move in to close up this episode, could you remind our loyal listeners and loyal viewers where they can find you, where can they engage with you, and what they would find in your content?
Well, I haven't been on social media for a month, so I'm actually a little harder to find lately. Marvel Snap Zone, the Discord of Marvel Snap Zone, and Discord in general. Tag me in any Discord that's Marvel Snap related. Either I'm there or someone will be able to find me. Another
Sure.
one, then _CCG in private messages. Oh,
Please.
content. Whatever happens on Marvel Snap Zone. So, talking
Hey, again, not my articles.
yes. Now Glazer is back. So,
Glazer is back.
But yeah, I do mostly like tier list, new cards, and review of new cards for weekend missions. So basically, there's like theory crafts at the start of the week, and the more the week progresses, the more I use stats and that kind of stuff to analyze what's happening. And that's basically it. Otherwise, I'm working on a lot of card games at the moment, so my brain is fried, but I love it.
Wait, what other card
Well,
games are you doing?
I'm writing for the Bazaar. I'm writing for... I don't even remember the games. I'm writing for the Dragon Ball Fusion World game. But we're waiting for the next expansion. And they also asked me to pick up Path of Exile 2, which is the type of game I'm terrible at because my APM is the same as my grandfather. So
yes, I understand that lifestyle. Dan, we're on the same energy.
Learning this one still.
Fair. Cool.
I'm so bad at Diablo 4. It's very pathetic.
Yep. When they asked me, I told them like I played Diablo 3 and the game laughed at me. They were like, but it's just about like knowing how to make builds. It's going to be like a deck. Like, yeah, it's going to be like a deck, except I'm going to have to play it at some point to test it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what people are like. Come on, don't you want to play? What's the stupid game that everyone's playing now? Rivals? And I'm like,
Glazer, Rivals is not even Diablo. That's like a whole different thing. There are builds in Rivals.
I wasn't so bad at Overwatch because I could play Healer and Hide.
Fair.
Diablo and Path of Exile, you actually have to get in there eventually.
You do. You do.
And that's when it goes wrong.
We all know Glazer is out there, maining... Let's see, Captain America in Rivals off stream.
That's me.
Yeah,
of course.
Why
wouldn't he? Honestly,
clearly. Look, when they put Batroc the Leaper in, Batroc the Leaper in Rivals, Den can play Batroc and I'll play Captain America and we'll win 0 games.
All right, let me download the game.
Yeah, we're there.
Let's go.
But until Batroc is there, we're not in. But yeah,
probably be a duelist too.
So. If you follow me, I'm assuming you like prolific content creators, people who just make a shit ton of content. I like to think my content's high quality, and I know for a fact that Den's content is high quality. So you should absolutely be following Marvel Snap Zone. Not only are you going to get an article a day by me, you're going to get like 17 articles a day by Den. I keep looking and being like, I bet you Den didn't write an article today also. And then he did. 2, in fact. Every goddamn day. It's amazing.
Yep, my fingers are like petrified at this point. I just can't move them anymore.
It's amazing. It's genuinely like I mean, so I'm doing every weekday. I might do weekends. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Those articles I'm doing. My articles are meant to be consumed in 5 minutes, right? Den's are not, and they're happening every bit as often as.
Yeah.
So go follow him, please. He deserves it.
It's a
blessing. He's going to need you to follow him because eventually, I guess France actually has real health care. Because like eventually he's going to need medical care for his fingers. Like in America, you would have to support him financially to get him there, but in France, he'll be fine.
Nah, France is okay for that. We have other problems, but at least healthcare we're cool.
Fair.
All right.
Oh, the world.
Well, something that should bring joy to you, loyal listeners and loyal viewers, is Glazer reading our Patreon supporters in as few breaths as possible. Is it actually a language? We find out, or is it just a bunch of syllables shoved together that kind of sound like words? So let's see. All
right, thank you to Abigail Gleason, Manitoba, Never Girls, David G. Wingfield, Dirty Casual, LAB, FaThorNewman, Inc., I'm Frostman, Jane Everett, Yolo Potato, Thinking Poker, Prime, Brian, Ryan Burke, Ryanwood, Characters Lee, Kazushi, Koire, Archangel 3K, Paraforce, The Go To Your Hollow, Synth, Quid Pro Joe, Snap Distance, Joe Fratnick, Mr. Kerfuffle, Cables, Ginger Prime, Phil Breyer, Taplow, Kenny Lives with the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Biz of Black James 23, Extra C, and Skippy G, Jessica Gamble, Slush Death, King of Bros, Grey Kazoo, Werewolf, Capsule, Ludacris, Corbin, Drunk Cute, Jimmy Cute, Glam, Colonel Foreman, Gist Out, 8 Sage, Miles, Mr. Green Goblin, Unibot, Flan 56, Steven, Brian Crawford, Justin Smart, Jason B, Only Fox, V, Fuzzy Nose, Spectrum, Wood, Maddie, CJ, McHad, Jinx, Snowflex, Oculars, Mr. Craig Sterry, BG, Zotrix, The King of Canada, Demon Falcon, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Great Learners, The Pirate King Tuccrr, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for. I actually messed that one up really badly, largely because we've had a few changes recently with people coming and going, and I haven't done it enough to like sort of have it ingrained, and I kept almost saying people's names who weren't there and almost missing people's names who recently joined. It was very difficult.
Well,
And
thank
people
you.
really aren't nice with you. They could pick like shorter nicknames now that they know you're doing this, but no, all these like names are so long.
Yeah, everyone, just be a letter.
Crazy.
Actually, I think there's more than 26
Call
people.
yourself
So
Den like normal people.
I wanted to say thank you to Gunny T and the other syllables that support us on Patreon.
Oculars is here.
Dan, I also want to say thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Always having fun.
We got you to bed early.
Yes.
Early, in quotes.
In quotes.
3 a.m.
Well, Glazer, it's very enjoyable to have recorded this episode with you, my friend, as it is almost each and every week.
A pleasure. Please, dear listeners, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer. I'm trying to grow a new thing.
Yep.
Yes. Continue to support Glazer, your new #1 Marvel Snap streamer at Pulse Glazer. And until then, as long as the U.S. government will allow you to do so, stay safe, make good choices, and keep on snapping.